Productive Pastor 91, clarifying why I do Productive Pastor. Welcome, friends, back to another episode of Productive Pastor. It's Chad. Great to have you on here. Hope your week's going all right. Mine has been squirrely. Let's just use that word to describe it. It's been kind of crazy, but in spite of all that craziness, it actually somewhat relates to what I'm talking about today. This sounds like an odd topic and title, but this is an episode I've been excited about sharing for several months because it relates to so many of the questions I get from other from pastors, from churches, and all these sorts of things. But also this growing understanding of what is vision and mission, what role does that have in any organization, and how we're going to talk about that is actually some work that I have done to clarify vision and mission for Productive Pastor. So in some of this is a little bit of just an update of all things Productive Pastor, but also to talk through the way that after 10 years of doing this, I am learning what I believe is just the crystal clearest why I do what I do. So it's going to be a different episode. I'm going to kind of walk you through some things, tell a couple stories, but also update you on the underlying mission of Productive Pastor, which is this: healthy ministry through strategic productivity. So thanks for tuning in to a little bit of a different of an episode, but I'm excited to have you along for this as just kind of chat and give you some updates, but also hopefully you learn some things inside of the process. And let's just go straight into it today. So if you know this or don't know this, Productive Pastor started over a decade ago. And the starting of it was not very strategic at all. It started really for a couple of reasons. Number one, I was bored. I was an associate pastor at a church, and my day was just not busy. I had a lot of extra time on my hands, and I had begun thinking through ministry strategy and just unique ways and what this looks like for me. And so I started sharing it on Twitter. At this point in time, this is 2008, 2009 maybe. I'm a couple of years out of seminary. No. This is 2012. I'm a couple of years out of seminary, and I'm still pretty much on Twitter with just my seminary friends and some other folks. And I just start sharing all these little things I'm learning about what ministry looks like, because we're all 12, 18 months, 24 months into full-time ministry for the first time. And people kept saying, Chad, you need to podcast this. You need to do a podcast. And I'd done podcasts before. I was in the middle of a fantastic theological show at the time called The Threshing Floor, which you can still find on all of the podcast places if you want to listen to that. So it was an uncommon thing. They're saying, hey, Chad, we need you to share this. And I realized, you know what? At that point in time, I was probably 8 months from starting a church plant. And I needed a place to use this energy and to think through these things, to be the creative side of who I was in a way that was also healthy to the church I was part of the pastoral team of at the time. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to start Productive Pastor. And it'll probably run for like 10 or 12 episodes, and I'll be done with it. I won't have, that's all I can really say about just how I've learned to manage my day as a serial procrastinator, person who's way too creative and jumps from A to B all the time. And over the course of 5 years, we pushed almost 100 episodes. And then I took it down. I put it down because I was going through just a time of significant change. Because if you were around for the early crew back in the day, you remember I was a lot more hustle focused. I love to cram a massive amount of work into my 40-hour week. Everything was optimization and just go. And I was beginning to realize, like, this isn't the way, this isn't healthy. And I did not know what to do. And it took a huge health crisis to give me an excuse to just shut the podcast down. I actually took every episode off the internet. So sometimes I'll get emails from people saying, hey, I'm trying to find all these old episodes. Where are they? Well, they're on my hard drive. That's where they are. Occasionally I'll drip one out into this feed, but that's where they are. Now, we had the Productive Pastor community that had gotten going on. The first version of the Productive Pastor email list was actually a lot bigger than it is now. That was going on. I deleted that email list as well. So I wish I still had I think I had 3,900 emails at one point in time on that. I wish I still had those emails, but I don't. We have the new version of what the Productive Pastor email is. Instead, I had done one cohort-based course I'd created. That was it. It was very, very different. And a couple of years later, I began to realize I've changed so much about my own approach to productivity. And I had turned 40. My ministry was changing. This was in the middle of the pandemic, and people were trying to get up out of the pandemic. And I started putting those productive pastor hats back on online a little bit. And I had a few friends that were actually my guardrails that I said, listen, if you see me productive pastoring online, I need you to tell me to stop. And one of them called me one day and said, Chad, I think we need you to be productive pastoring right now. I want you to consider bringing the show and just bringing, the whole productivity party back to the world. And so I thought through it all, and we relaunched in the spring of 2022, I think. And we're 91 episodes in. Every single week, an episode comes out for the most part. And now we've got the Trello course. We've got the Becoming Productive course. There's a 515 email course. There's all sorts of stuff. I've gone into bivocational ministry, and I spend a significant portion of my time coaching other pastors in ministry productivity. So all this is growing and growing and growing. And I began realizing that, okay, I need to start coalescing this for the long term. And that was kind of one of my fall goals, was to begin, no longer just experimenting and trying things to see how they worked, how it worked inside of my schedule, how people responded to them, all of those sorts of things. I want to get this just drilled down. And that's what brings us to today. Now, Tony Morgan, in a great article from the Unstuck Group, 4 reasons why churches become insider focused, shared this. It's just from a couple weeks ago. The link of this will be in the show notes. But he says this: one of the common misunderstandings of strategic planning is that the goal is order. The goal is actually to accomplish the vision. It's possible to manage and plan your way into losing momentum. When planning and order become higher priorities than movement, your church is teetering on becoming insider focused. Now, I do a lot of work with normal-sized churches, understanding growth and reaching new people. But this isn't about growing. This isn't a conversation about planning or insider focused. That quote just struck me, though, when it said the idea of that it's possible to plan and manage your way into losing momentum, that the goal is actually to accomplish the vision. And that's a great understanding of why I just kind of drove myself into this. And so what I did was I went to the deer stand this November during deer season, and I brought a couple mental models with me that I had purchased that I'd kind of wanted to learn some new tricks and that sort of a thing. I brought them into the deer stand with me with a notepad and a pen. I left my phone, left everything in the truck, and I was just there. I'm going to do a 5-hour sit and, get out there super early so I don't spook the critters. And I'm going to work on this until the critters come out. And then hopefully I will get a critter. Well, I did not get a critter that day, but I did come out of there with what I believe to be a super strong focus statement for all things productive pastor. Because I'm also trying to link in a few other things that I've been doing online over the last year. If you follow me on Twitter, I talk a lot about normal size church growth, church size dynamics, post-COVID, all of that. And one of the questions I was asking myself this fall is, do I have too many things going on? Or even the idea of, do I need to start a second thing to encompass all of this other work I do? And I realized I just don't have the margin for that. I also don't want to do that. I need to coalesce all these things that I'm passionate about, that I feel called to do, that I'm working with other people doing, into one just single pillar, one unique, common, core vision across my work as a clergy coach and as a developer. And this is the phrase I walked out of the deer stand with. And what I want to do the rest of the episode is unpack this phrase for you. It's this: healthy ministry through strategic productivity. Healthy ministry through strategic productivity. And you've seen me say it. You've seen me write it. It's shown up. It's been showing up in places for the last month or so. But I want to walk through what that means for me, but also what does that mean for productive pastor and the things that are happening. Now, nothing wild is going to change, except I have so much more clear focus. And I'm also sharing this. You might say, Chad, why are you updating us? This is some personal update episode. No, it's not. Because I also so many times talk with churches and they think that their silver bullet that they're going to look when they find is, oh, we just need to do the work and get a new vision and mission, and then everything's going to be better, or all this sort of stuff. And I actually think that is a horrible first step to take, because so many times we have to discover who we are in order to clarify who we really feel like we are and what this vision, what this mission has to be. It took 2 years of work almost of me productive pastoring around until I was able to clarify those 5 simple words: healthy ministry through strategic productivity. So many times with churches, they might be stressed out, expending tremendous amounts of resources. I see this in developer, as a congregational developer, which is another part of my job all the time in churches. Let's do the work. Let's take 6 months to do all of these sorts of things, expend a tremendous amount of energy, and all you have is a phrase. And in actuality, you should have had so many other things that you could have been doing at the moment to really discover who you are. You have to know who you are in order to hone who you are. That's probably the quote takeaway for this episode. You have to know who you are in order to hone who you are. So, healthy ministry through strategic productivity. Number 1, healthy ministry. Y'all, I shared earlier that the first version of Productive Pastor was not about healthy ministry. It was about busy ministry. It was about hacks. It was about getting more things done. It was about go, 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 go. And I had people I was pretty good friends with saying, Chad, this is stressing me out. The level of expectations that I feel like you are setting for what does it mean to just be able to do this job. That was the things I had to unlearn during the time where I just did not productive pasture anywhere around. Healthy ministry involves the pastor. Healthy ministry involves the leadership. Healthy ministry also involves the whole church. Healthy pastors create healthy churches, and healthy churches create healthy pastors. That ministry health has to be an all-encompassing reality that is part of the larger goal for me to feel like I can be honest and do what I do. That's why I love the Clifton Strengths work. I think the Clifton Strengths work is a fantastic thing for a leader to do, to understand how to design their schedule, how to be productive, all these sorts of things. That's just one, kind of core piece of it. That's there. Healthy ministry means being aware of your margins. It means being aware of, okay, we're trying to work harder, not smarter. Healthy ministry means being aware of ministry walls and knowing that, okay, this is going to be an adaptive challenge. It's going to take all of us to get over. We can't get over it by just simply staying in the office for an extra hour each week or making a bunch of Facebook posts about it. Healthy ministry requires for us to slow down, for us to think about who God uniquely made us to be as people, but also live with the assumption that there is something very specific that God might be calling our church to be doing, that there is a good thing to do and there's also a right thing to do. Healthy ministry is something that I think about quite often right now, because 9 times out of 10, when I see unhealthy churches and I'm getting phone calls for help and that sort of thing, nothing bad happened. They were just terribly ill-focused and have started working themselves to death. So healthy ministry. So how do we find that healthy ministry? Well, there's a lot of ways that you can find it. And the particular way that I feel called to unpack it is through strategic productivity. Now, my working definition of strategy, this came out of the exact same clarity session where I was just answering a bunch of questions and working through things and thinking through all sorts of different layers of this, is this, that strategy at its most basic is about building awareness and planning action. It's twofold. Strategy is understanding all the things that you can understand. It's asking the questions that that you should be asking, and maybe asking the questions that you do not know you should be asking is part of that. Strategy is sometimes doing deep appreciative work and waiting for the Spirit to pull things up out of you. Strategy sometimes is saying no. Strategy means saying yes. Strategy means letting somebody else take the lead. You're building awareness inside of it. But then you also just don't build up awareness. You can overthink things to death. One of my leading strength in the Clifton Strengths is strategic. I love to think things, but I have a level I can overthink things. Thinking through multiple options is fun for me, but that's not always what has to happen. Once you've built the awareness, you have to plan the action. There's 2 parts of strategy: healthy ministry through strategic productivity. And the last thing, productivity. What is productivity? For me now at 43, after have been doing this job for over 15, 16 years, doing productive pastor for 10 of those years, productivity isn't hustle. Productivity also isn't constant optimization. productivity is sometimes, it's always being done for the sake of a healthy ministry. Healthy for the pastor, healthy for the leadership, healthy for the church, healthy for those the church is trying to reach. If none of the work that we do is worthwhile, if it's not creating healthy ministry through strategic productivity. And I find that statement just over the last month or so, since I've been even living into it, has been so much more helpful as I make decisions, as I think through what to do, as I think through content for the podcast, as I think through this saying, okay, am I just talking about this, or am I talking about this in a way that leads to healthy ministry through strategic productivity? It takes time for us to learn how to use any sort of a vision, mission, anything like that as a guiding statement, but we have to learn what does it look like just to measure those things out. So what I'm going to be doing over the next month is this. You're going to be getting regular episodes from me, but I'm also going to be talking about my 4 content pillars, and I've had these 4 content pillars, for a long time. These aren't going to be any sort of a secret, but I want to be talking about why these things matter through the specific lens of healthy ministry through strategic productivity. So until the next episode, you can't tell, I've been a little bit sick, under the weather this week, but that gave me more time to think about this. So I valued that. I learned to be healthy and to take the time to relax and chill and to get better, not just to realize I can just shift my day and time and do 10 times more work because I don't have meetings. We'll be back to the next episode. Excited to have that. Thanks so much for being part of this community. As always, it's a pleasure to host you, and I will see you back next time.